I mean, I initially, when the lockdowns happened, I got frustrated in the summer and I did open up. Several people walked by and called the police. And I thought to myself, what you're digging yourself a karmic grave to call the police on 3 people sitting in a room doing yoga together. They're all like, there's like how anybody could look at that and think that was something that needed to be reported really hurt my soul.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. Well, folks, I'm with Jordana Ricketts. She is the owner of TRIBEspace Yoga. Just took a tour with Jordana of this yoga studio. I got to tell you, it is without a doubt one of the most beautiful, the most beautiful yoga studio I've ever been in. It's even something more than a yoga studio. It just opened earlier this year, and unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 virus and because of the restrictions that government and bureaucracies are putting on entrepreneurs, TRIBEspace Yoga might indeed close this year. I hope that's not the case. Jordana, like I said, you've done a masterful job in creating what I think is the most artistic yoga studio that I've ever seen. What is your story? I know you opened, I believe it was last August, after doing all kinds of preparation going back to 2019. And of course, now we are in a modified stage 2 lockdown yet again in Toronto. What does that mean for you and your yoga studio?
Well, really, this was a venture where I invested a lot of money. I was trying to create something that was so genuine that the amount of money that I was putting into it, I knew would be reciprocated in the feelings that people got when they came in here. So there was a lot of money invested. I guess that's really the crux of the story. What happened was that, as with any construction project, any business project, you spend your money in anticipation of an opening date, and that you'll be able to start making money as soon as that opening date comes. What happened was we were supposed to open up on March 30th, and the restrictions were put in place on March 15th.
What horrible timing, eh?
It was terrible timing. It was like, it could not have been worse, to be honest with you. So we kind of sat in limbo and just waited, and we were very, very patient for the majority of the summer. People were coming in, they were asking us, can we do our yoga? I'll be honest with you, I have this couch here, and people come in and they feel the energy of the space. I had people even come in and say, I've contemplated committing suicide. I'm depressed. A woman was saying to me, I'm spending $50 a day on online games. Can I just pay you so I can come in and do yoga instead? People were wanting to come here. They needed to be here.
And by the way, if I might add, these are some of the factors about where perhaps the cure for this virus is worse than the curse. You mentioned depression. You mentioned someone wanting to commit suicide. We also know spousal abuse is off the charts. People dying on elective surgery lists. And yet government still thinks this is a good idea to lock down entrepreneurs like yourself in the name of public safety. But it does not compute for me.
I see that there's a lot more negative repercussions by disallowing a place like this to be open. And the National Institute for Biotechnology from the US has numerous articles stating how they actually consider yoga as a medicine, and specifically how it counteracts cardiovascular diseases, like fatal cardiovascular diseases, which means if we're trying to help people fend off COVID, why would we not be doing the remedy that is considered a medicine for cardiovascular diseases? We're social creatures. We should not be isolated. We should not be drawn apart from one another. And also too, especially this second next lockdown is coming at a time when it's getting cold outside. So people are not going to be going outside and running. The gyms are closed as well. They're just going to turn inward. When it was nice and sunny outside and the kids were on summer holidays, everybody was outside. But now, where are they going to go for their fitness? Where are they going to go for their meditation? Where are they going to go for their spiritual growth?
How dire is it for you now? It was Thanksgiving weekend. The second stage 2 lockdown was slapped into Toronto, Peel region, and Ottawa. What does this mean for your business? I mean, will you be able to literally pay the rent next month and the months to come?
Well, so supposedly there are some more rent relief. We've had a few months of rent relief. However, now that the rent relief has been switched over to the onus is on the tenant, our landlord actually just yesterday asked us for our full rent until we can prove that we have actually qualified for that. And that program's not even in place. So this is a rent relief for October. It's October 20th. Our landlord is now saying we're behind 20 days with rent, and yet the government still doesn't actually even have the application form for us to apply for October relief. So that means we're either going to default on our rent for the month, or we're going to have to put out that money, and then that leaves us absolutely no money left.
And so much for what I think is the greatest lie of 2020. We're all in this together, because clearly that's not the case.
No, we're not all in this together. I mean, I literally I think I have about $6,000 left in the bank account, and that would be the business account and my personal account, because I've given everything that I have to the business. And our rent next month will be $10,000. Our rent this month is $10,000. And that's not to paying for the utilities. That's not paying for all the other stuff that goes on in this studio. And then for me to have a place to live as well. I haven't paid myself a salary this whole time. I mean, I've given it all up for this. And so it's very difficult for me. I've been very, very patient thus far, because even laws like the bylaw stating that people must wear a mask from walking in from our front door to the doors of the practice room, then they can take it off, and then they need to put it on as soon as they're done practicing yoga and walking back to the front door. None of this makes sense. And this is what I really hope that the general public is going to start to see, is that you're just being told to do things that are conditioning your mind. And it's conditioning our mind, and it's happening very, very quickly. So the thing is that aside from what this is doing to my business now, let's say in a magic world, we get back open in 29 days and everyone starts flocking here. I don't think we'll ever be having 55 people in that practice room like we could have if we'd been able to open up in March and this fear of COVID had not existed. Everything was decided. It was very strategic. Nobody goes into this investing $500,000 without knowing exactly how many members, exactly how many people need to be in every single class in order to recoup that money and then start making money going forward.
And that's what has been invested, $500,000 into this studio. Incredible.
And then part of that too is a CSBL. And the crazy thing is, so CSBL is a Canadian loan from the government. The government who has locked us down this whole time has been demanding payment on the loan while they've shut us down. So now that's going into collections. If the laws that were made were being based on science, then yoga studios would 100% be open because of the benefit both physically and mentally to people. I'm going to stick it out 28 days of abiding lawfully, but at the 29th day, if that promise is broken, I can't stand by and continue to do this, especially when a dance studio who essentially orchestrates under the exact same premise as a yoga studio has now been allowed to open. And what is the differentiation between the two?
I can't figure it out anymore, Jordana. It's so arbitrary. And I can tell you, when that 29th day comes, I hope you can get in contact with us. Like my colleague down under, Avi Yamini, he's in Melbourne. He has been chronicling the plight of merchants there, a menswear store, a hair salon, a couple of restaurants that have said, sorry, we're opening up. Find us if you want, because we have nothing to lose. We're going to go out of business. If you find yourself in that situation, maybe there's something we could do for you as well. I think in the meantime, you mentioned off camera, there's a GoFundMe page for your...
Really, right now, the only thing that I can hope for is, donations from the GoFundMe and for the government to turn things around very, very quickly. I mean, I initially, when the lockdowns happened, I got frustrated in the summer and I did open up. Several people walked by and called the police. And I thought to myself, what you're digging yourself a karmic grave to call the police on 3 people sitting in a room doing yoga together. They're all there's how anybody could look at that and think that was something that needed to be reported really hurt my soul.
I would like to address this to you, Premier Doug Ford. Remember in 2018, for the people? What about this person? Remember Ontario open for business? What about this business? What about this yoga studio where this lady has invested her life savings into? Do the right thing, Doug Ford. You said you're beholden to medical advice, but we even know the World Health Organization is saying lockdowns are not the way to go. Get rid of these lockdowns and let entrepreneurs like Jordana Ricketts get back into business, as opposed to being another casualty in this terrible pandemic we're dealing with. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. If you're able to, make a donation so that we can continue to bring you the other side of the story.